Glock has been at the center of controversy, and it hasn't been because they did anything wrong. In fact, strangely enough, it's the fact that they didn't do anything, at least not until recently, which is what they're being blamed for. So this is from an article by my friend Tom Knighton over at AmmoLand, or Bearing Arms, I'm sorry. And one of the things Tom says, and I want to get your comment on this, Michael, it says, in particular, they didn't redesign their firearms, so a device, you got to follow this because this is interesting. They didn't redesign their firearms, so a device they never made and is illegal to possess couldn't be put on the guns that were never designed to use it. The lawsuit has specifically accused Glock of violating an Illinois state law and a related Chicago City ordinance by selling semi-automatic pistols that can be converted to fully automatic weapons by illegally installing an aftermarket switch known as an auto-sear, which is not even made or sold by Glock. So somehow Glock becomes responsible. Explain this to me.
There's so many different levels to this story. It's so odd, and I got to tell you, some of the things that the antis have done are, leave me scratching my head. Some of the things that Glock has done leaves me scratching my head. But basically, yeah, it's completely ridiculous. Now, Glock originally, they came out with the Glock 17, and then they had the Glock 18. The Glock 18 is just a Glock 17 that had a switch. Now, that's not what we're talking about, but the original plan for a Glock was to be have a full auto option, but the reality was there just wasn't a market for it. They were trying to steal market share from Uzis and MAC-10s back in the 80s, and it just didn't take off. So what happened was some folks recently, especially with the invention of 3D printers, came up with a switch that would convert it to full auto. Now, full auto Glocks are totally impractical. Yeah. I've seen anti-gun groups that say they can't find a single example of a full auto Glock being used in the commission of a crime. I'm not so sure that, they've kind of set these parameters that we should automatically just be mad that a Glock can be converted to full auto, or that somehow full auto is innately evil. I'm not so sure that that's even true, but they've kind of defined the box that we're playing in here. And I think part of me says, hey, so what? What if it can be converted full auto? You still have to go through the steps. There's still laws that have to be followed. But the reality here is, this has nothing to do with Glock. I mean, there really aren't a whole lot of firearms that can't be engineered to be full auto. I mean, I just visited the Browning Museum in Ogden, Utah, and one of his first automatic firearms was a lever action that basically had this big plate in front of the muzzle and would work the lever to reload it using the gases from the end of the muzzle, very similar to a modern AK. I mean, there really isn't a firearm out there that, if engineered enough, can't be engineered to be made, either auto if it's not, or full auto. And, so this whole thing's ridiculous. I mean, it's kind of Minority Report saying, hey, if they intend to do something bad, then we're going to blame the manufacturer. And that's ridiculous.
Here's the thing. It's just another way that the anti-gun lobby groups and stuff can attack the manufacturer. They've always been going after the manufacturer, but luckily we've had the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act to protect them. But they did this with Remington, I think, in Connecticut, right? Wasn't it the same kind of thing? They're always trying to sue the manufacturers because they can't always get around the Second Amendment. So they figure they're going to cut the head off the snake. So suing Glock, one of the biggest, firearm manufacturers, they probably think that that's going to tarnish the whole Second Amendment community. I don't know. That's just my thought. But the idea that you could sue a company for manufacturing something that people are taking a completely different product and adding to it. I mean, how are they responding? That's like, just, Chevy Camaros, they don't make them with 1,000 horsepower, but I could make a Camaro have 1,000 horsepower by taking aftermarket parts and rebuilding and making modifications. Am I a felon for doing it? I can even take off the emissions stuff. I can take out the catalytic converter and all that stuff. I'm breaking the law technically, right? Am I a felon? Why is it that, it's such a big deal with firearms? I think it's just because they want to go after the firearm manufacturers. Any thoughts?
Yeah, no question. That's what it is. I'll tell you what the other side does better than us. The anti-gun groups get together and they say, hey, this is our focus for the foreseeable future. And they pick one thing and everyone goes after it.
Yeah.
And, their attacks are full of hyperbole and, think of the children and, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. And they do this from every angle, every organization, every advocate, every news story, every press release has to do with this one thing. A couple of years ago it was ghost guns.
Oh, right.
Well,
right.
now it's these Glock switches, and they concentrate on that one thing for a year, for 2 years, for 5 years, until they have, gotten every possible ounce of progress out of that one thing, and then they move on to something else.
Yeah.
So when you listen to their messaging, it's completely insincere. It's ridiculous. Part of the problem is a lot of the elected officials, they're happy to compromise. They don't have a backbone to stand up against and say, hey, this is ludicrous, go pound sand, come up with something better than this.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea that, hey, we're going to take a product that doesn't exist, that isn't sold on shelves, that you have to make or buy from a criminal, and we're going to put that product on a legal product that has nothing to do with the illegal product, and we're going to make it illegal. I mean, it's law after law after law they're breaking, but they just want to completely get rid of the entire line of Glocks and even Ruger and a couple other manufacturers because of this. It's completely ridiculous.
Well,
but they're going to squeeze every ounce of success out of it they possibly can.
Yeah, every ounce of media time they can get. We're going to come back to this real quick in 1 second. One more I want to show you one of our sponsors here. This is a really cool device. This device, the Cali key, removes your AR from the definition of an assault weapon. So did you know that when the so-called assault weapon ban lists are created, they exclude manually operated bolt-action firearms? So just by dropping the Cali key into your direct impingement AR in place of your semi-automatic BCG, you'll have a bolt-action rifle that falls outside the definition of an assault weapon. So you don't need to do anything else. So give the Cali key a look, because with it, you could retain all your rifle's features, avoid registration complications, revive your black rifle sales if you're an FFL, regain the ability to do private party transfers, legally transport across hostile jurisdictions, hunt with your AR in areas like Pennsylvania, enhance long-range precision and quiet or suppressed shooting. Cali Key has state-specific expert attorney opinions on its website and supports grassroots Second Amendment organizations with its sales. Cali Key's mission is to empower customers and claw back our civil liberties. So go to calikey.com and use the discount code LOADED. All right, so back to this Glock thing, Michael. Now, Glock is recently creating a whole bunch of new models, aren't they?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And this is, like I said, some of the things that Glock have done, some of the things they've done, I don't know what to make out of it. Now, so let me kind of go through it. Back in the spring, they actually announced that they were going to discontinue a lot of their models, and it didn't really make a lot of news, didn't make a lot of waves. We covered it on our podcast on Gun Owners Radio. We talked about it, but there wasn't a whole lot of information. They just said, hey, we're going to discontinue these models. Well, then a couple of months ago, they took it a step further. But in the meantime, a lot of lawsuits started against Glock, like we said. In California, there was actually a law passed, AB1127, that said if you're manufacturing a firearm that has a cruciform bar in the trigger mechanism, which is just a piece of metal that's a part of the trigger mechanism that's in the shape of a cross, and it can be easily converted, using regular household tools, not specialized equipment, to full auto, then it cannot be sold in California unless you're a cop. Then it can be sold to you. Now, the interesting thing about
cops,
that,
right?
just to talk about
Cops.
that law, is, well, if it can be easily converted to be fully automatic and it doesn't have a cruciform, bar in it, then that's okay. Number one, and number
Right.
two, it can still have the cruciform bar as long as it can't be converted. Like, what? It doesn't make any sense the way that they wrote the law. It really truly, it didn't have anything to do with safety. It had everything to do with Glock.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
And a lot of times these people writing the actual laws don't know enough about the mechanics of firearms to be talking about this stuff. So it really just annoys me, and especially then you get down to the local level and you get local politicians talking about stuff just that they have no business even talking about. When it comes to the automatic versus semi-automatic, they most of the time have no idea what they're talking about. The so-called assault weapon, they can't define it, but yet they want legislation to ban it. All sorts of stuff that we've seen over the years of these people creating legislation who have no business in that area because they don't have any scope of knowledge.
Well, they were either incompetent or it was either incompetence or malfeasance. And I think it could have been incompetence. They didn't know what they were talking about, but I think it was malfeasance. I think that they said, hey, we're going after Glock. And the one thing that really, truly we can make Glock specific is this cruciform part. So therefore, we're going to put this part in there.
Yeah.
We're going to make
find a way, right?
All the newscasters, they're going to act as if a cruciform bar in a gun is the worst thing that's ever happened to our public safety or whatever. Meanwhile, it's a tiny little metal piece, inside the firearm that helps it work. It's just a mechanical piece of metal.
Sure. And I remember. Go ahead.
I was just kidding. So they passed this thing. And then Glock said, okay, we're getting rid of our Gen 3s, our Gen 4s, our Gen 5s. We're not going to manufacture any of these anymore. We're just going to put out this new
Gen V,
which I think is a Roman numeral 5. They haven't been totally clear on that. And it's changed, and everybody was anticipating, well, what's going to happen? I thought they were going to completely get rid of the cruciform part. I thought, because it doesn't have to be cross-shaped. They can actually make the same thing in a different shape. And I thought they were going to, kind of outmaneuver these laws and lawsuits by doing that. Turns out the Glock V is a Gen 5 that has been slightly modified. And I just don't understand. It doesn't appear that they're going to be able to continue to sell in California. It doesn't appear that they've dodged any of these lawsuits. I just don't understand what's going on with Glock. I don't know what they're thinking or doing. And it's weird. You have a bunch of people out there, a bunch of gun people who are mad, like, they bent the knee and, Glock sold out and, but I mean, I'm not sure they did. I'm not sure if they did or didn't. I mean, part of me's, I think there's a case to be made that they didn't sell out at all because they barely modified their Gen V or their Glock Model V. But then part of me is kind of mad that they didn't because we're no better off than where we started. And in fact, there was a lawsuit that was filed by Second Amendment Foundation and Firearms Policy Coalition and NRA here in California. And I think this Model V that Glock put out completely took the wind out of the sails of that lawsuit.
Oh.
So I can't figure out what's going on and why they did what they did.
I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. You're taking all the, Gen 3, Gen 4, and Gen 5, right? You're taking that off the market and you're coming out with this new one at the same time, getting hit with all these lawsuits. I mean, it makes it looks like that's what they're trying to do. No.
Yeah, well, honestly, that's what they put out the message that, hey, we're going to revamp our Glock and it's going to help us, get through the lawsuits and the laws that are being passed, whatever. Honestly, I think that I'm totally speculating, but I think that I think that the top, a year or 2 or 3 years ago, the top of Glock said, hey, we need to clean up our product line. So let's get rid of some of the versions that aren't selling.
Yeah.
Let's stop with the multiple generations. Like let's do a major change that still maintains what people love about Glock, but makes things easier or whatever. Plus they had like their copyrights and whatever. They were starting to expire, and people are making Glock clones. I think that they did this for business reasons and then floated it out there as if they were doing it for legal reasons. And I just don't, I think it's just all messy and weird. I don't think that they successfully accomplished anything positive, except that they've cleaned up their inventory
kind of thing
they offer, but now they can't offer it. Like, for example, in the state of California, that buys more Glocks than 49 other states. You know what I mean? Like, there are a ton of gun buyers here in California, but now we're not going to be able to buy a single Glock. So I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I wonder if these companies look at it and cut their losses by not being able to sell to 1 or 2 states, and they figure that that's going to be easier and more cost effective to just eliminate those states. And maybe that's what the gun grabbers are trying to achieve.
Hey, thanks for watching Gun Owners Radio. I hope you loved that clip. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and follow us on social media, and check out our website at gunownersradio.com.